All right, guys, so for each of these videos, we're just going to try to give you an extremely quick breakdown of the main points of what you're going to see on that particular quiz just to help you review and be ready. Also, a good resource if you didn't do well on something and it's outside of our regular hours. This is a good way for you to go back, review, and hopefully do better on it after it's reset. So the bulk of this first section on algebraic expressions focuses on how we translate words into math symbols. So when you look at the quiz, what you see here in A, B, and C of example 1 is how things are mostly going to be worded. There will be some that work backward, where instead of giving you the words, they'll give you the expression and ask you to choose which words are correct. So what I've done is I've kind of gone through for each of the operations that we have: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I've written out the main key words that you might see that would indicate to you to use that particular operation. Another couple things that we're going to see in here that are a little bit tricky, I'm going to go through in these examples. So looking at A, what best describes the English expression, and I really wish they didn't, so I didn't, but I really wish they had put these in quotes because it would have made the sentence easier to read. But this right here, after you see the words English expression, what comes after is what we're trying to translate. So I tried to pick a harder one. Some of them are easier than these. This says 4 less than the product of 7 and a number. So whenever you have the, less than or blank less, this can get tricky because with subtraction and division, the order is important. With multiplication and addition, it does not matter, but here it does. So when we say 4 less, that actually means it's going to go in the end. It's 4 less than something. So you have to put the something first. So in this case, we're going to start with the product of 7 and a number. So anytime you see a number, that means your variable. And on every question that I've seen on these quizzes, they use X as their number. So product means to multiply. So product 7 times the number, which is X. And then this says 4 less than that. So minus 4 would be how we translate this. Now you'll notice that when I picked these, I tried to purposefully get some things that were similar to each other, so to help you distinguish between them, because since they're multiple choice, there's always going to be whatever the most common mistake is that kids would make, that mistake is going to be a choice. So if we look at B, what best describes the English expression 7 times the quantity of 4 less than a number? So this is another key word here. Whenever we see the quantity, this tells you to use parentheses. And anytime you're dealing with multiplication, it's going to say the quantity if you want parentheses. So in this case, we're doing 7 times, and when it says the quantity, that means parentheses, 4 less than. So remember, that means it goes second. What is it less than? Less than just a number. So we start with a number, which is X. We do 4 less than that. And because it said the quantity, we put this in parentheses. So you can see how A and B are different in the way that the words go and in this. Now, I will tell you that because division implies parentheses, they will not say the quantity for things that are supposed to go together in a numerator and denominator. So that's what I tried to do here with C. What best describes the English expression, the quotient of 7 and 4 less than a number? So remember that I said with division and with subtraction, order matters. So whenever you see the quotient of or the difference of, the order that you put them in is important. Whichever thing comes first, that goes first. So if we're talking about subtraction, if it says the difference of a number and 5, that would be x minus 5. If you put 5 minus x, that's not going to be correct. Same with here, the quotient of 7 and 4 less than a number. Since 7 comes first, that needs to be in the numerator. So this says the quotient of, so 7 goes in the numerator. Then it says and, that's indicating that I'm moving to the denominator, 4 less than a number. So this, again, same thing that we've been doing, 4 less than a number would translate to x minus 4. So this example 1 has more questions on the quiz than any of the other pieces. It's the biggest piece. Example 2, there are going to be a question or two on just using our favorite acronym Pemdas. So remember that Pemdas is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division. Now I write those on the same line because those are actually the same pecking order. So if you have both multiplication and division, you do those from left to right. You don't always do the multiplication first. Same thing with addition and subtraction. Subtraction and addition are equal in the eyes of PEMDAS laws. So we do those from left to right as well. So in this case, I'm going to do what's in parentheses first, and I happen to have 2 sets of parentheses. So here I'm going to do the 4 minus 1, which gives me 3. So I can take away the parentheses now if I want. Over here in the parentheses, I have 9 minus 2 squared. So within those parentheses, I actually have to apply more PEMDAS. So I have subtraction and I have an exponent. We see that exponents are higher in the order, so we do that first. So I do the 2 squared first, which gives me 4, and then I do 9 minus 4. So that gives me 5. So now I'm all done with parentheses. They're completely finished. And again, along the way, I had to do some things inside. Next would be exponents. I only have 1 exponent left, so that means 3 squared, which means 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to do that in my second step. Third step, multiplication and division. I have division right here, so I need to do that next. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And now finally, I just have it down to 9 plus 1, which gives me 10. All right, example 3 is super fast. Just making sure you know what terms mean. So terms, when we have an expression, are the things that are separated by addition and subtraction, not by multiplication or division or exponents. So how many terms do I have? This is 1 term, and this guy is another term. So in this case, I have 2 terms. Now, the second question I really actually very much dislike because it's really not correct. But my job is to make sure you're prepared to do well. And on the quiz, this is how they word it. So they'll give you this expression and say, what is the coefficient? And you have to pick one thing. So coefficient means a number multiplied by a variable or quantity. And so in this case, really both of these terms have a coefficient because we've been taught through pre-algebra and algebra that if no coefficient is written, that it's understood to be a 1. So technically there's a 1 in front of here, which is why I don't like this question. But on the quiz, They want you to just name the coefficient that is not 1. So in this case, coefficient, the answer they're going to want is 6, because that's a number that's multiplied by the variable. The 3 is not a coefficient, that's an exponent. The 1 technically is a coefficient, but again, on yours, that's not going to pop up. All right, very last one is evaluating expressions for certain given values of x. So in this case, this just means plug and chug. So in my first step, that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to plug in a 3 everywhere I see an x. And I'm going to keep everything else about this the same. So that now I can go back to like what I did in example 2 and use my Pemdas. So in parentheses here, I have 3 minus 4, which is -1. So I did parentheses. Now I'm going to do exponents, which I've just got 1 here. So 3 times 3, which is 3 squared, is 9. Now multiplication and division, I've got multiplication here and here. So -3 plus 6 minus 9. Now again, addition and subtraction, the last step, this gets performed from left to right. So I actually say, okay, -3 plus 6, I get that answer, and then I subtract the 9. So -3 plus 6 is +3. +3 minus 9 is -6, which would be my final answer. All right, if you understand all of those, you should be ready to go and do a great job on your first quiz. If you don't, please reach out to us and let us know how we can help you.